I think it's so important to travel because it changes the way you think. I remember when I went to Poland and the way they spoke, the way they acted, even the way their food tasted and the way their cities was laid out, it just made me think a lot differently about my own life. And in some cases made me so more appreciative of what I have, and it just made me realise that everybody's different, but that doesn't mean that that's bad. It just means that we're all special in our own ways.
I love to travel, so I've done quite a bit of volunteering abroad. I've spent a month in Cambodia looking at seahorses, diving all the time, and I spent 3 months teaching in South Africa. I think it's really important to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise, expand your horizons and get to know people that live completely differently to you. It's amazing how much you can learn from them.
So personally, I love traveling a lot. I love exploring. I love immersing myself in the different cultures around the world. During my gap year, I took a solo trip, my very first solo trip, in fact, to New Zealand, where I stayed with the Maori individuals. And I learned so much about the way that they live, the food that they eat, the music that they listen to. And that really inspired me as an artist. And I think that is what traveling does for you. It opens your eyes up to a whole different set of cultures that you never expected to see at all.
Yeah, I've traveled quite a bit now since I've lived in another country. Certain things have been more accessible to me. I actually find travel very stressful. Getting on a plane, going somewhere new, especially if you're going somewhere new to live for a long time. I find that very difficult, but once you get over that hump, then, you know, there's so many wonderful things to see and do.
Because I come from a multicultural background, I've been to many countries in Europe and I've been to Brazil. But the most memorable country that I visited was Kenya in 2014, and where we went on a safari. And it was the most memorable experience because we saw elephants, lions, giraffes, and animals that you don't normally get, or that you don't get in Europe or in Latin America. And it was very interesting to see a culture that is completely different to the European or the Latin American cultures that I grew up with.
I think it's important to travel, to see the world and other countries. You can learn from other people's cultures and see how different people live in different lifestyles. When I was in Italy visiting a family, I had a part-time job helping out one of my cousins. He had a vineyard and I was helping him pick grapes to make wine.
I think traveling is very important. I can't stay still personally. I like to travel. I've lived in different countries ever since I was very young. I've lived in Kenya, I've lived in Moscow, and I've visited many countries. I think as a musician it's great because I get to tour, I get to perform in different cities, and it is really important because you see different cultures and you learn about them, and it opens the horizons of your mind. And I make friends everywhere. So yeah, that's really important, I feel.
I enjoy traveling a lot. I have done a decent amount of it, being that I'm from California and living in Europe at the moment. So I've been to Amsterdam, to Spain, to Italy, just to name a few. And each one is very different, and yet they're so close together. And I think it gives people scope, I'd say, to understand that the world is bigger than yourself and that your way of thinking might not be the right way of thinking. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that there are different ways of thinking.
I think that work is very important and everybody should contribute to society. I think that work shouldn't just be about making money, it should be about fulfilling your dreams and what you enjoy to do so that you enjoy going to work every day. For me personally, I would like to work in film production.
I worked for about 10 years in a bar as a waitress, and I've always had a very high work ethic. I think work's important because it does get you out meeting new people and building working relationships, because it teaches you not to be immature. It teaches you to control your emotions and work in a team and work with new people and experience new things. So it is very important. I think it's also important to enjoy it though, because you spend a lot of your time at work. So if you're not happy, I think you should change until you find something that's more suited to you.
I think that if you work hard, you can normally achieve your goals, as long as your goals are a realistic, set in reality. In the future, I want to be a user interface engineer, and I think that if you work hard every day and if you practice your skills that you need to achieve your goal, then I think that you will achieve it. So for example, if I program every day and I try and improve every day, then I think eventually I will become what I want to become.
For about a year, I worked at a library, which I really, really enjoyed. I think it's important to like your work, but I think it's more important to love your career. So the thing that you end up really going into in the long run needs to be something that you're very, very passionate about in order for it to be fulfilling.
2 months ago, I used to work at JD Sports, which is a trainer shop. It was fun. Sometimes. It was hard, but it was challenging as well, which was nice. There was a nice balance between the two. Work is important, not just for money, but I feel like you learn loads of skills from it as well, such as commitment, timekeeping, team leadership.
But I think the most important thing to remember about work is that you do it for so long. Like you're doing it from 20 to 65, which is the best years of your life, some would say. So I think it's really important to be doing something that you love, because you're dedicating so much of your life to it. So you should be in a career that you really enjoy. I tend to like to do things that give back to people or give back to the environment and things like that. So as long as you're finding a way to serve that purpose, then the money is secondary, because you're living your day-to-day life towards a goal that you appreciate. But if your goal is to make a lot of money, then go make a lot of money. But just make sure you're doing something you love, because sitting at a desk not doing that, I'd say it's a waste.
I've had a few different jobs. I've worked in shops, I've worked in customer service, and I've worked in a bar as well. I've also worked as an actress, which has been my favorite job so far. I think that it's important to find a career path that gives you joy and you feel fulfilled doing it, so you don't just spend your life doing something you don't really want to do to be able to pay for things that you don't really want to get either.
I think the job that you do and the work that you do, it really depends on your circumstances. Ideally, you would do a job that you really enjoy, and I think that's probably the way it should be. Going to work shouldn't be stressful or a chore every day. Some people are fine with that, but for me, I would like to enjoy what I do. If I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing it, I'd like to at least enjoy it on some level. But obviously circumstances sort of make it so that sometimes you just have to do a job and you just got to make money, and that's okay too.